Rick Santorum, the former senator of Pennsylvania, has just announced his bid for the 2016 presidential election, and in this video we're going to tell you why you should not vote for this man. Now, of course, he is branding himself as this blue-collar, pro-religious freedom guy that will destroy ISIS. Well, let's just go over some of his policies and what he really believes. All the links and sources will be in the description below, and I dare you to prove me wrong. Now, of course, Rick Santorum, he just announced that he is going to be the guy who's going to destroy ISIS. How is he going to destroy ISIS? Well, he's going to put troops on the ground in Iraq and Syria. Well, if Rick doesn't understand, it was us sending troops to Iraq that created the vacuum that let ISIS thrive and created an enemy, and now currently ISIS is calling for the U.S. ISIS wants the U.S. to fight in Iraq and in Syria. They want a one-on-one war. Rick Santorum will give them that, even though it was the very same policy that helped foster the creation of ISIS. When he talks about the assassination program that Obama has, where he openly killed American citizens, this is what he said.
You are not safe. And if people say, well, you can't go out and assassinate people, well, tell that to al-Awlaki. Okay? We've done it. We've done it for an American citizen. We can certainly do it for someone who's producing a nuclear bomb that can be dropped in the state of Israel or provide.
Obviously, calling for assassinations of not only American citizens, but also Iranian scientists. He also called for preemptive strikes on Iran, and he exaggerates what is currently happening with the country. Now, he is on a full war path with Iran. If he does become president, that will be his first major agenda. Now, it doesn't make sense because in his presidential speech today, he talked about he's going to be the guy who destroys ISIS. How is that going to happen when Iran is the country that is actually fighting ISIS on the ground? Iran is offering U.S. aid in fighting ISIS on the ground in Iraq, but the U.S. rejected it. Iran is still fighting these ISIS terrorists on the ground by themselves with no support from the United States, and they're two separate forces. Meanwhile, Rick Santorum still sees them as an enemy. Now, why is the U.S. not even cooperating with Iran when it comes to destroying their mutual enemy, ISIS? We did that before with our foreign policy, join up with enemies to destroy a bigger enemy. They're not doing it now because a newly declassified U.S. government document that just came out under the Freedom of Information Act saw that the U.S. supported the creation of ISIS as a way to get rid of Assad in Syria. They saw them as an asset. They saw them as an aid. And that's why the U.S. government secretly trained them, funded them, and gave them all the intelligence that they could so they could go after Assad, the foreign policy enemy of the United States. And we are solely, the United States military, solely responsible for not only aiding and abetting these horrible terrorists, but also their creation. Their founder was in the U.S. jail. He was released. And of course, there's so many different documentations that we covered here before on this YouTube channel telling you about this false kind of premise that ISIS is just on its own. No, it was started, created, and funded by the U.S. military to get rid of Assad. Meanwhile, Santorum foreign policy makes no sense in any way, shape, or form, and that's why a couple years ago when he was running for the 2012 election, we asked him this.
War.
There's something called a just war theory that, in fact, would war sometimes cause a lot less loss.
And what's just about attacking Iran if we're not attacked? What's just about attacking Iran if we're not attacked by them?
You did get my vote, by the way.
Well, thank you very much.
Excuse me.
I appreciate your answer.
Answer the question. Will you preemptively attack Iran? Will you preemptively attack Iran, Rick? Thank you. Rick, you're going to lead us into World War III. You're crazy.
He's crazy. That's one of my camera guys going after him. As a senator in Pennsylvania, Rick Santorum also ripped off American veterans. So he wants American troops on the ground. Meanwhile, as a senator, he ripped them off. But as Santorum engineered a controversial land deal that robbed the military's top veterans' homes of tens of millions of dollars and worsened the deteriorating conditions at the facility. This is what Rick Santorum did as a senator in Pennsylvania, and this is why in 2006 he wasn't reelected as senator. He failed and lost the election by 18 points. How can a senator who lost an election by 18 points can even consider himself as a viable candidate for the 2016 presidential election? How does it make sense that he disrespects veterans? Meanwhile, he wants more war, more assassination, less freedom in all shapes, ways, and forms. As a senator, he also intended to cut federal funding by proposing a bill that would make it illegal for professors, students, and student organizations to criticize Israel. Again, he wants to violate the First Amendment of freedom of speech and wants to take away federal funding away from people who criticize his favorite country, which of course is Israel. He also said the Patriot Act does not violate the Fourth Amendment, which made me ask him.
Rick, you said the Patriot Act doesn't violate the Fourth Amendment. Can you tell us what the Fourth Amendment is?
I asked him this question about 7, 8 times, and again, even though he talks a lot to all the other press, he wasn't answering that question, and obviously couldn't even answer what the Fourth Amendment is. I really was curious, since he did say the Patriot Act doesn't violate the Fourth Amendment, which is a totally asinine statement. He also wants to violate people's freedoms when it comes to watching pornography and having same-sex marriage. The dude wants to take away your porn. That should be enough reasons. Now, of course, it is not wrong to have your religious beliefs, but when you're pushing them onto others, you are violating their rights. So him being this pro-religious freedom guy, running as a Christian, is total hypocrisy. He makes statements on his campaign trail saying that same-sex married children are actually left at a detrimental state. This is what Abby Martin and myself talked to him about when he was in Washington, D.C. recently.
Hey Rick, Abby from WRC. You said during your campaign that homosexual parents, that kids don't thrive under homosexual parents, but actually studies have shown that kids thrive equally under homosexual parents as they do straight parents. Do you think this hate?
And of course, he didn't answer that question. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with being Christian in any way, shape, or form and having your religious beliefs. We have the freedom to believe what we want to believe in, and of course, no one should be persecuted because of their religious beliefs. But when it comes to Rick Santorum, he openly supports a child molester. He supports Jerry Sandusky, this total idiotic hypocrite. Send this video out to anyone voting for Rick Santorum. Please, just send it out. All the sources will be in the description below. Prove me wrong. And for whatever you do, if you care about the future of the United States, about your freedom, about future potential endless war with Iran and ISIS, do not vote for Rick Santorum. If you found this informational helpful, click the like button. And of course, do not forget to subscribe. We're going to have a lot more content and videos coming your way here on youtube.com/WeAreChange.